All
All
right.
right. Go ahead, Cox.
No, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Doing really well.
Good, good. I wish I could say the same. I made a visit to the dentist today, so Suleiman is gonna carry me tonight, y'all. I'm gonna do a little bit of stuff, but he's gonna carry me. We gonna get right into it. Minnesota moment. Why Black men must pay attention to what's going on in Minnesota. Really important subject, and we're gonna go through it and make sure everybody understand why it's important to all of us.
Yep.
Let's get started. Before we go any deeper, we need to ground this conversation in some real numbers because Minnesota isn't just dealing with isolated incidents. It's sitting at the crossroads of national shift. And when you look at the data, you start to understand why the tension feels so heavy up there.
Yeah, I mean, people hear Minnesota and think cold weather, Prince, and progressive politics. But the truth is, Minnesota has become one of the most important immigration hubs in the Midwest. Not the biggest, but one of the fastest changing.
Let's break it down. Minnesota population is 9% foreign born. That's roughly 1 in every 11 people. Now, compared to the national average, which sits at 14%, Minnesota looks middle of the pack. It's nowhere near California or New York, where a quarter of the population is foreign born, but there's the twist.
The growth rate, Minnesota's immigrant population has grown over 22% in the last decade. That's faster than most Midwestern states, where immigration is now responsible, where immigration has actually slowed down or even declined. In Minnesota, immigration is now responsible for almost half of the state's population growth. And by 2040, it will be responsible for all of it.
Wow. And the diversity is real.
Yeah, it
Minnesota
is.
is dominated by one immigration group. You got Asian community, especially Vietnamese and what's that, Hmong families. You've got African communities, including Somalia, Ethiopians, and Liberian families. You have Latino American communities that have been growing steadily for years. That mix makes Minnesota one of the most culturally diverse states in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. But with that diversity comes pressure. Minnesota has an estimated 81,000 undocumented residents, not as high as states like Texas or Florida, but higher than most of its neighbors. And the state has taken a more welcoming approach. They recently made over 80,000 undocumented residents eligible for driver's license. That puts Minnesota in the same policy lane as places like California, Illinois, and New York.
Cool. Wow, man. I didn't know that. These are good
Yeah,
facts,
indeed.
man. And then we got a backlog. Minnesota Immigration Court in Fort Snelling has over 38,000 asylum cases pending. That's one of the highest backlogs in the region. Families are waiting years and years for decisions. Schools are enrolling hundreds of new students. Shelters are filling up with immigrant families, and local governments have scrambled to keep up.
So when we talk about Minnesota being on edge, it's not just about one tragedy or another enforcement surge. It's about a state that's carrying a national burden, a state where demographic change, policy decisions, and federal enforcement are all colliding at the same time.
Gotcha. It's a mirror, a warning. And for Black men listening to this, Black men in particular who are listening to this, whether you are in Georgia, Texas, New York, or anywhere else, this matters because Minnesota is showing us what happens when communities grow, diversify, and struggle under the pressure without the system in place to support them.
It's a mirror, it's a warning, and it's a chance to rethink what safety, dignity, and community look like, not just for immigrants, but for all of us.
And what we want to do with this episode is we want listeners to understand why Minnesota current crisis matters to Black men nationwide, how immigrants enforcement intersects with policing, race, it is policing, I'm sorry, race and community safety. What solidarity looks like across Black immigrants and working class communities, and how to process grief, fear, frustration without losing hope or agencies. So let's talk about that. Let's not skip over to the next one right now. Let's talk about that. One important part of this is I want you to speak on because I know you can is solidarity, solidarity, what it looks like across Black immigrants and working class communities, because people want to make this a black and white thing or a monographic kind of type. What this says is we need solidarity with all these people. Talk about it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I mean, I got to be honest. I don't understand the hostility towards immigrant communities. I literally don't, and particularly in Minnesota, where I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the Minnesota I mean, people in Minnesota were settled by a Danish population.
Hmm.
The majority of people who live in that state or the history of that state come from Germans, Danish people, and although I don't necessarily agree with everything that comes out of the Somalian community, I mean,
Hmm.
from what I know in the state of Minnesota, that they're very productive people, that, they bring a lot of revenue and resources into the state, peaceful people are not causing issues in the state. And I don't understand why this administration has chosen the state of Minnesota as, uh, a problem, particularly considering that, and I know you know this, but they're usually states or areas of the country that are identified by the federal government when they bring mass immigration into the U.S. When there's a war like Ukraine or something like that, or the Somalis were being attacked when we had the issue in Somalia, the country determines, okay, we're going to bring a lot of those people into certain parts of the country. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I know that there is a huge Somali population in Columbus, Ohio, because the government, when they started allowing Somalis to come in the country, Ohio was one of the places that they placed them. A lot of Ukrainians are going to California. They try to base them in places that are similar to their climate. So I don't understand the desire to specifically target Minnesota as a place that we're going to send ICE agents into to harass or to round up that population. So, I mean, it could be because, they have a darker complexion. Don't know. But
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I mean, the state of Minnesota is benefiting from that immigration being there. They're benefiting from the people in that community who are helping the state. So I don't necessarily understand.
I think you hit the nail on the head with one. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is because the governor ran against him in the
Right.
last election.
There you go.
That's
Yep.
another reason.
Yep.
And I think the whole state is ran by Democrats for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we're this goes to what I said last week. We're in the middle of a civil war,
Mhm.
and it's not North and South this time. It's red states and blue states. He is sending his militia into blue states, and they're taking these immigrants out of these blue states and wreaking havoc in these states and taking them to concentration camps in red states.
Right. Yep.
Texas just made a deal to turn a former Amazon warehouse into another concentration camp to hold people in it, which is ridiculous. But I think that's the reason why. So what so what's happening in Minnesota right now and key facts about it, and everybody's talking about it, and we need to say something about it because border patrols, and let's get that straight. These are not immigration people. These are border patrol people. I mean, the name itself tells you what they specialize in, or what they should be specializing in.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's not a border in Minnesota unless it's Canadian border. I don't know my geography, but
Canadian.
yeah, there's no reason for them to be in a twin city. There's just no reason for them. But Border Patrol agents fatally shot a 37-year-old Alex Preety. I might not be pronounced his name right. It's Pretti. And that heightened the state of emergency in the city. He's the second one in the city that's been killed. He's the third one that's been injured in a melee with these Border Patrol agents and these ICE agents. Minnesota and the local politicians, the mayor, and all of them want them to get out and show some decency there.
Right.
So let's talk about immigration and the death of an American citizen. To
Uh-huh.
me, they don't go hand in hand, but let's talk about it anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's a couple things to talk about, and one is, unfortunately, I think a lot of Americans don't understand our immigration system and how it works. Typically, when somebody makes it to the border of the United States, or make it to the point where they want to ask for asylum, they typically are, a judge or a magistrate or somebody hears their case. It's evaluated, and then the United States makes a decision on whether or not this person um, can receive asylum. Which means they basically say, I'll just use your name as an example. They'll say, "Hey, Tony, we received your asylum request. We reviewed it. We're going to set a date for you to go to court." That date could be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the line. But they allow you to come into the United States and allow you to be here legally into your court date. What you promise to do is to show up at court or show up at immigration court to finalize the decision. So when they release you, yeah, we release you out into the country. They've done their evaluation. They realize you're not a criminal. They realize you haven't done anything illegal. You're just asking for asylum in the United States for whatever reason. And you were released. You were basically allowed to go into the United States and live a life, however you live the life, as long as you don't commit any crimes or do anything illegal. We allow you to go out into our country. And then when 6 months later, 3 months later, when you're supposed to come to court and get the final decision, we expect for you to come to court and get the final decision. You're not in the country illegally. You're here legally. You went through the process of being in this country. And a lot of Americans don't know that. So they assume because somebody is here, you know, and they don't have their papers or driver license or something like that, that they're illegal. And ICE, I don't know how true it is. I mean, that's what they're reporting on the news, is going around and talking to people because they have a foreign accent and saying, "Oh, you have a foreign accent, you're not an American." Well, they may not be American. They may be from another country that's trying to get asylum in this country. That's not illegal. And that's the issue that I have with some of the things that are going on in Minnesota. If somebody is a criminal, committed a crime, and immigration services are going after them, I have no issue with that. No shade there. They're criminals. They shouldn't be in the country. But there are lots of people that come in this country legally, follow the process that we currently have in place, that ICE is taking advantage of and harassing people who are here legally. That's the problem that I have with what they're doing. The second piece is a lot of these people who they are anointing as ICE agents are unqualified. They have no real experience in being law enforcement officers. They have no real experience in de-escalating. They have no real experience in dealing with Americans. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court and some of our leadership in this country is allowing them to do things like snatch people out of their vehicles, potentially go into people's homes without a warrant. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, if you come to someone's home, you break down the door, they don't know who you are, you don't identify yourself, they allow these guys to wear masks, you can't see them. And what is an American citizen supposed to do? A lot of us who, have arms, if someone comes breaking into your home or coming into your home without being invited, we're going to defend our house. We're going to defend our wife. We're going to defend our children, defend our castle. So now you put Americans in a situation where I got to protect my wife and my kids or my house against a law enforcement officer. And because the Supreme Court and our leadership have given them carte blanche access to do whatever they want, now you got us fighting against the law enforcement officers in the United States. And as I said before, a lot of them don't have the skills or the experience to do what it is that they're doing. So now you
Exactly.
basically have your government against its
Cities.
citizens. So
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And people know that you can go to any surplus store and get a lot of the stuff that those guys are wearing. So, I mean, you could be in danger of being robbed by somebody that's not law enforcement because you can't see their face and they don't never show you your bag.
Well, and we've seen that. I
Yeah,
mean, there have been
yeah,
situations in the United States where the people are like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And they're not identifying themselves.
exactly. They're just telling you, "Get out the car. Get out the car." Come on, man. Don't see, it causes conflict, it causes tension, and the emotional toll on the communities of color is even worse, you know. And they go in under these potential with Minnesota, it's been real crazy. We're going in there for immigration. Then you get in there for immigration. We're going in there because of fraud. So immigration, fraud, eh, you know, if we're gonna do fraud, let's do fraud. Let's see if some of these big businesses that took money during COVID. Let's see what they did with the money. You know, you nickel and diming people and stuff.
Well, here's my issue with the fraud. Let's just I'll grant the fact that maybe there's some people there
Oh yeah, no doubt,
that are doing fraud. I'll
no
grant that.
doubt, no doubt. I know people in the local community that did it. You know,
Yeah,
they
I'll
got
grant
caught.
that. I'll grant that for the sake of the argument. But here's my question: when in United States history have we brought in guns and law enforcement when someone was committing fraud? Okay, that is a that is a white collar crime. So why not send in uh tax
Immigration is a civil crime, not a
right?
felony
Why not send
criminal
in
thing.
tax accountants or send in business fraud people, people who specialize in identifying that? There's no reason for you to bring in law enforcement with guns to put people in jail. We've never done that. We've never done that in the country. Anytime there's been some type of economic or financial fraud, the people who went to arrest that person were involved with some of our financial agencies. Sure, a lot of them have weapons, but they didn't go drawing weapons like they were wanting to get a terrorist. So you send in overwhelming force to deal with something that should have been handled at the lower levels of the federal government to identify fraud. And if you need to go arrest them after you do the investigation, I got no issues with you bringing law enforcement to do what law enforcement's supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the immigration piece is just ridiculous because immigration is a civil issue, not a criminal issue. So why do you got these people running around with guns and stuff?
Right.
And
Yep.
you said that you gonna get the worst of them. So, and the record shows that in the beginning days of this episode of trying to get these criminals, that 90% of the people that were caught or that were getting ran out of the country were criminals. But that's flipped in the last 6 months or so. And it's only about 10 to 20% are criminals now. They just taking people out of schools and everywhere now. So it's
Yeah.
just,
And then the question I would have as a tax-paying American citizen is where are the arrests of the companies and the organizations and the conglomerates that are hiring these people? The majority of people that come into this country, specifically from our South American countries, and even through Canada, are coming here for financial gain, meaning they're coming here to work so that they can send money back to their families and things like that. But where are the arrests of the big corporations that are hiring these people who know it's illegal, but hiring these people at the meat packing plants, at the warehouses, at the chicken places, on the farms? Where are those arrests? Because they're committing a crime too. But I don't see any of those guys being drug out by handcuffs and taken to jail and sent to countries they're not from. You don't
yeah.
see that. So that's where I got a side eye and I'm looking at what's being done is because you're only arresting the people who are out there just trying to make money. You're not arresting the corporations who know that they're hiring illegal people. I'll give you an example. Another example is hospitality. How many people who are cleaning your rooms, are maintenance people in hotels and places like that are illegal, that are working for companies that hire people knowing that they're undocumented. And then those are the people that are cleaning up behind you. But you don't see any other big hotel chains being arrested. You don't see, and I don't know who's doing it, so I don't want to say any names, but we know who the big hotel conglomerates are
Oh,
in
yeah.
this country.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
And you never see ICE going into there and saying, "Hey, Mister or Mrs. So and So, we're taking you to jail because you have 100 people working in your hotel who are illegal." And the reason that you don't see that is because those people are serving the people in our country who make the decisions on stuff. They're serving them. They go to a hotel, they get served by those people. They get their rooms cleaned up by those people. They don't want them to go out there because they're happy with where they are, the position that they're in.
And see, that's the whole thing behind this. It's like there's common sense immigration reform to be had,
Right.
but where we get lost in this conversation is the common sense part.
Yeah.
Our leaders and politicians don't have common sense, or their common sense is driven by money. And when
That it,
and when common sense is driven by money, it becomes stupid, not common. So
that's exactly what it
I
is.
think that's what it is more than anything. And this is going to take us to our next segment, which brings all of this together: Black men and immigration. Why is this struggle connected? It is connected because of over policing, surveillance. The immigrants, the dark skinned immigrants, or the colored immigrants, or whatever you want to call them, are seeing what it's been like in America for Black men in particular for years and years. How they're over policed, why their face and the color of their skin will get them pulled over faster than what they're actually doing and everything. And what we got to understand, the immigrants and people of color, is that we have to be advocates for each other. And uh I think the best thing that we can say about that is the safety means enforcing, like, it's like we have to be together as a community and as a group of people that are being over policed and everything. So go ahead with that and just tie all that together for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we do have some things in common. I'm not sure that I'm willing to go completely
No,
over the side with 100% support because a lot of these people are the same people who are very disingenuous when they're talking about African Americans in this country. And I brought this up all the time when I say when you come to the United States as a foreigner, you're getting the foreigner immigrant experience. When African Americans have gotten the African American experience in this country. So the experience that you get when you come into our country is not the experience that Black folks have the opportunity um, to gain access to it. Secondly, I think the experiences some of our immigrants or people who weren't born in this country is you're starting to experience what we have said that we've experienced in this country for 400 years. We've experienced what law enforcement is doing to the people in Minnesota. We've experienced what law enforcement is doing to what the Somalian community in Minnesota is experiencing. We've experienced what the Asian community during COVID experienced. African Americans have been saying for 100 years that there are different rules for different people in this country. It's unfortunate, that somebody that served in the military and fought for the rights and everything that we have here in the United States. It's a different experience than what we experience.
yeah.
I talk to people all the time and I say, we're talking about racial stuff. And I say, well, when was the um, civil rights bill passed? And they say,
When
oh, 1960. And I said, right. And I said, you know what year I was born in? 1969. All my brothers and my brothers and my sisters were all born into the United States, not as a full citizen.
right, right.
The first person and the last person in my immediate family to be born into this country as a full citizen from a legal standpoint. My brother, my other brother, my oldest brother, and my older sister. None of them were born prior to 1965. So they were born into a country that didn't even consider them to be 100%. I was, go ahead.
That includes me.
No, I know it was you. That's what I'm saying. So all of them, all you guys are born and not considered a citizen. I was fortunate enough to be born 4 years after the civil rights movement. And then a lot of
Mhm.
immigrants come here. And now that you're experiencing what we have experienced, what my father experienced, what my grandfather experienced in this country, where we didn't have the full rights, nor we had the full access to what's going on in the United States. In a sense, I sympathize with what's going on, but what I'm saying is that now you get the same feeling and understanding that we get. When you get kids get in the car and you drive out and you get pulled over by a law enforcement officer and you get treated different. Or
Mhm.
the two our two fellow citizens in Minnesota that were killed. That happened to Black folks in the United States for years. where no jury would convict a white man for killing a black citizen. And we experienced that. I mean, I've told you about my
Right.
uncle in North Carolina. I mean, no one was ever charged, but my family, for the most part, thinks that he was killed by the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
True or not, I don't know. I know that my uncles and my grandparents are old enough to know that that wasn't unusual in the 1940s in North Carolina. So people in this
For
country
sure.
that are experiencing what ICE is doing, you are experiencing the same thing that black people have been saying has happened to us for 100 years.
Yeah.
The sympathy is there for me, but I don't know that I am 100%
And
behind. And go ahead.
no, no, I understand exactly what you're trying to say, but what we're trying to I hope what we can do is a lot of people don't wanna listen to what we have to say.
Right.
You're just complaining.
Yep.
But if you take note from what we went through and how we deal with it, you may learn how to deal with it yourself, you know? So that's the coalition I'm talking about. By no rights can we compare the two because uh because it's not the same. You brought yourself here. You knew what you were going to get into. You knew what was going to happen to you, what possibly going to happen to you. We had no choice, and yet we have thrived over the years because of our perseverance and everything. Not because they want us to, because you can see they keep moving the goalposts on us every time we try to make some kind of headways in this country and everything. So, no, but they need to take notes and they need
Yeah, I
to
mean,
understand, and they need to understand and feel what we feel every day.
yeah, no, I mean, I've said for a very long time that I mean, obviously, I've known my father my whole life, and then he's not here with us anymore. My father, in my opinion, was the strongest man I had ever seen in my life. I mean, the type of madness and the type of shit that he had to accept as he was coming up through his career when he was in the military. I mean, I've told you guys on him before. My father served 10 years in the Navy, and he
Hmm.
left the Navy and went into the Air Force because of the prejudice and the discrimination and the racism that was going on in the 40s and 50s in the Navy. And he went to be and joined left the Navy and became an Air Force staff sergeant um, because of what was going on. And he had to
Hmm.
deal with it. This is a man that served 24 years in the United States military and didn't get the respect that he's supposed to get. So we know as a community what happens sometimes with certain people in the United States. There's always a backlash when there's progress in this country. And
Exactly.
always, I
And
mean, President.
unfortunately, I just think these people in Minnesota is byproduct of what we call collateral damage
Sure,
from Donald
sure.
Trump's little feelings, hurt feelings and stuff. So I
Well,
think they
and the people, I mean, he's made it openly acceptable in a lot of cases to have the type of feelings that you had in positions of authority. I mean, what did they do to hire ICE officers? Oh, let's give them a $45,000 signing bonus. Let's make sure that we recruit out of NASCAR. We recruit out of I can't remember the other one, but places like that. I mean, there's not a whole lot of diversity in NASCAR.
no.
Not saying that anybody in NASCAR is a racist. I'm just saying there's not a lot of diversity there. So you take people out of there who are not used to diversity and you put them into positions where they have authority over people who don't look like them. What do you expect to happen?
Exactly. It's a terrible situation that the Minnesota community, the Twin City community is under. And like I said, I just think there are collateral damage from Donald Trump's quest to get even with anybody that has smoked with him. And he's put 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol people in one area. It's like invading another country pretty much, and they wreaking havoc in the city. The businesses can't make money, and I think that's a big problem. And they need to speak up to get ICE out of there so they can go back to a regular working city and communities and stuff. Um, So the question is, as we wind down, is what can we do from where we stand today? What do you see as a starting point on trying to? And I think we just talked about a little bit of it just then. Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, I think if we're talking specifically about the Black community, I mean, I think that we should do what we continue to do, which is hold people accountable. You know, when there's a wrong that's done to us or attempted wrong that's done to us, we need to speak out, and we need to support people um, who are trying to fight. You know, if you get pulled over or a law enforcement officer or somebody does, not even law enforcement officer, but anybody does anything that is, you know, legal to you, then you know you need to go to the court system and try to get justice. And I think that we need to support them, whether that's donations, lawyers providing pro bono work to assist them to hold people accountable, because that's the only way that we're going to make change. We didn't make change in this country by going to war with the people that were doing us wrong over the last 100 and something years. We didn't go to war. We didn't go out and grab all of our guns and start, taking shots at people. We defeated them legally. We defeated at the ballot box. That's what we need to do. There are a lot of people who are in Congress right now who are on board with what's going on. Well, they
Mhm.
get elected next year, and people need to go to the ballots and make sure that they're a one-term congressman or one-term senator to ensure that we get people in this country who want to do the right thing. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm extremely, extremely proud of our governor here in Virginia, Abigail Spanberg.
Mhm.
The fact that she has brought the type of policies into Virginia, and she's trying to implement them to, overturn a lot of stuff that Governor Youngkin, put in place. That's how you win the battle, is you make it more profitable to them financially to do the stuff that they're doing. And so
I agree.
get them out of
110%.
office, bring in somebody who's more reasonable. I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm willing to sit down at the table with people who are reasonable. We don't just because we have different political beliefs doesn't mean that we can't come to a table, sit down and say what's best for the overall country. Right now, a lot of the Republicans in office, they have no desire or incentive to do anything to help the other side of the aisle have a successful life in this country. And to me, that's a problem.
Real problem. Real quick on mine is Minnesota could have been a training moment.
Hmm.
Any leader with common sense that's trying to reach a goal of deporting criminals and bad people from this country. And that was the premise of the president's election, was we gonna get rid of the bad guys. We're gonna get rid of. What would hurt them to work with the local police, the local law enforcement, sheriff's office, and all of them, and say, hey, we're coming in your city on this day. Give us all your bad guys that are in jail right now. We'll take them off your hands and get them out of this country. And if you have a record of bad guys that are not legal citizens, let's get those guys on our radar and let us work together to get these people out of here. But that's not their mandate. That's why they don't do it. Their mandate is to go in there and get as many people that are undocumented out so that they can reach a count that they were given, a quota that they were given. They're just trying to reach a quota right now. To me, that's what it is and everything.
I agree with you. And
Yeah.
my point would be, what are you considering to be illegal? Like I said, we have an immigration policy in this country. And it's not illegal for somebody to be in this country that is not a US citizen. If you have a date, you go see a judge when you come across the border, and they give you time to come back to court. Now, if people are not coming back to court and just staying in the United States and not,
Yeah.
then yes, you should go get them. But I want to make sure that that's everybody. Because if we were really interested in getting people who are in this country illegally, you wouldn't just be going to certain states. I live in the DC area. You can go up to Dallas Airport and you can see a whole lot of them getting off the plane and not going back. There's a lot of people in this country that come here on work visas, come here on educational visas that never leave. So it's not just the people who come across the southern border. You can get a whole lot of them up here in Virginia, in New York, you want go to LaGuardia or what's the other airport up there in New York? JFK.
JFK, yeah.
Go up to the JFK or LaGuardia Airport, and you can get a whole lot of people who are coming off that plane or who are overstaying their visas. But the problem with that is the majority of those people who are coming in on planes, they don't look like brown or black people. They're coming from European countries that never go back to their country. And that's not the agenda of this administration.
That's thank you.
That's what it seems.
It's a whole nother agenda. A whole nother agenda. That's exactly what it is. And I'm glad you said it like it is and everything. Before we get out of here and go to another note, just want to make sure y'all log in and with us on Spoutable at Gents MS, and then on YouTube at Gents Making Sense. We put content out every week, so just look during the week for our content. So, on another note, you want to tackle yours first?
Go ahead, you can go. I'll go after you.
Okay, mine is simple. What Congressman Omar suffered this yesterday was just the tip of the iceberg of what public servants are going through right now. And the reason, in my opinion, that they're going through this is because they can't seem to turn down the temperature on um, the rhetoric that's being spewed from the top all the way to the bottom. And when I say the top, I'm talking about the president. The president has ridiculed this lady from the beginning. And I would go so far to say that she is one of the top reasons why they're in Minnesota right now, because they can't stand her. And she's Somalian. She's of Somalian descent. But she is a U.S. Congresswoman that's being disrespected on a daily basis by this administration. And what you saw was fortunate in that it could have been a whole lot worse. And the thing is that's eating me up on a daily since I've heard it is the response by our leader that says, I don't think about this woman. She's a bad person. She could have planned all this herself. Now, when there was stuff out there when our leader was there was an attempt on his life, and there was stuff out there on the internet that said he did this because he wasn't doing very well in the polls. And once this happened, it kind of skyrocketed for him. So there was stuff out there that said maybe he staged this. So people like, I can't believe you were saying this about this man. This man almost lost his life. Well, this woman could have lost her life. So what gives him the right to say this about her? And it's always this what about stuff with these people. What about? What about? What about? You know, and I was happy to see that she fought back. She kept her cool. She said what she had to say, and she said that you're not gonna run me away from all this stuff. I think they should put the Fruits of Islam out there, maybe be her bodyguards and stuff. I bet they won't mess with her then,
Yeah,
for
I'd
sure.
like this. I'd like to
Yeah,
see that, man.
that's mine.
Yeah, I mean, mine is similar to that. Is that I don't understand. Well, I do. I understand why, because people like power, and Donald Trump, portrays that he's power, so people want to jump on that bandwagon. But as I said a couple weeks ago, in reference to Costco saying, we're not gonna stop doing what we do, which is beneficial to us, is that you know senators and congressmen and people in leadership in the United States need to understand that everything that you're doing is going to come back. At some point, you're not going to be a congressman. At some point, you're not going to be a senator. And you're going to have to depend on the same people that you are berating, that you're calling terrorists, and the same people that you are saying are not productive for this country or shouldn't be here. You're going to have to depend on them. You're not going to be a senator for the rest of your life. Most of our senators are extremely old, which means they're either going to pass or they're going to not run again and have to be out in society. And the same people that you are talking about and treating with disrespect are being the same people that have to take care of you. You're going to be in some, old folks home or retirement facility. The same people that you have treated like trash are going to be the people that are going to have to feed you. They're going to have to wash you and take care of you and show you grace um, doing their job. And that's what I would ask them to think about. Congressman, you have to run for Congress every 2 years, right? Every 2 years. And the same people that you are disrespecting, the same citizens that you are not showing respect to are going to be the ones that have to vote for you. And if you lose that election, you're going to have to come back into that community and you're going to have to be worked with or taken care of by those people. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, you can get on TV and you can do little clips about what is important to you and people think, that you're doing something. But the reality is that the people you got to come back to, they know. They know exactly who you are, the type of person that you are. They know the bills that you passed, the bills that you didn't pass. They should think
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly. Good. That's a good note to put it on, because in my opinion, we're not being served as a country right now.
Correct.
Our congressmen and senators just standing by idly while one man and his administration is running roughshod over the country and everything. Thank you once again, sir. Thank all our listeners and our viewers and everything. Excellent episode. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Take care,
Okay,
guys. Everybody subscribe, man.
and we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.